Okay, so imagine you're shrunk down, like tiny, beetle size, right? And
Yeah.
you're on this Indian forest floor, sun shining through the trees.
Yeah.
It's the world of the Indian Star Tortoise, and that's our deep dive today. Uncovering all their secrets, we've got research, cool stories, the whole thing.
Yeah, and what grabs you right away with these guys, it's got to be the shell.
Oh, for sure.
Those star shapes, so striking, but it's not just pretty, it's camouflage, like perfectly mimicking how light hits the forest floor.
Evolution is so clever, huh? Beauty with a purpose. So where in India are we talking exactly? Where do these camouflage experts hang out?
All over the subcontinent, actually. You'll find them in the dry scrub forests in
Yeah.
Gujarat, but then also more humid places like Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh.
Really? Wow, so they're adaptable.
Super adaptable.
So what makes them able to survive in such different, I guess, challenging places?
Well, the shell we talked about, right?
Yeah.
It's camouflage, but that dome shape also helps them with temperature, absorbing heat when it's cool, then shade when it's scorching.
Mm.
Plus, they're amazing at holding onto water.
I was going to ask about that. How do they go so long without drinking?
Kidneys, super efficient. They lose almost no water. Plus, they get moisture from the food they eat.
Ah, smart. And speaking of food, these tortoises are, what, strictly vegetarian?
Hardcore herbivores. But it's not just any old leaves and grass.
So what's on the menu for like a fancy Indian Star Tortoise?
Lots of variety. Grasses, leaves for sure. But flowers, fruits too.
Oh, interesting.
The key is it's low in protein, high in fiber. That's what keeps them healthy, and their shells grow strong.
Like certain plants are better, I bet?
Exactly, like prickly pear cactus. Loads of calcium, so good for the shell.
It's like nature's perfect diet plan. But lifestyle-wise, are these guys like social butterflies or what?
Nah, pretty reclusive actually. They're most active when it's cooler out, avoiding that intense heat.
Smart.
Yeah, you'll usually find them under bushes, rocks,
Yeah.
maybe in a burrow they dug themselves.
Makes sense. Got to stay cool and hydrated. Adds to the mystery. Definitely. But even loners need to find a mate, right? What's their love life like?
Oh, it's kind of cute actually. The males, they do this head bobbing thing to get the female's attention.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll even nudge them gently like, hey,
Adorable.
hey,
For such like stoic creatures, they've got their ways, huh?
totally. And once they've paired up, the female digs a nest, lays her eggs,
Okay.
then it takes a few months for the eggs to hatch. And those little hatchlings, super vulnerable.
Makes you realize, even for tough creatures, life's pretty fragile, huh? And speaking of vulnerability, I know these tortoises are facing some serious threats in the wild.
Yeah, sadly that's true. They're actually listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, meaning there's a real chance they could disappear from the wild.
That's scary. So what's putting them at risk?
Three big things: losing their homes, people hunting them illegally, and the pet trade.
So habitat loss, that's got to be from all the development and stuff, right?
Exactly. Their forests and grasslands are getting turned into farms, cities, you name it.
That's got to be hitting their numbers hard. And poaching, why would anyone hunt them?
It's sad, but they're so beautiful, some cultures see them as lucky. So they're wanted for the pet trade, illegally.
So loved in one way, exploited in another. That's messed up.
It is. It shows how cultural beliefs and conservation, they sometimes clash. We'll talk more about the ethics of all that in the next part.
Okay, good.
But for now, let's follow one of these tortoises on its journey. From hatchling to full-grown adult. Amazing stuff.
Sounds fascinating. I'm ready to learn more. We were just talking about that incredible journey from a teeny hatchling to a big, strong adult. What are some of the things a baby tortoise has to get through, in those first years?
Oh, it's rough. Imagine you hatch out, you're barely bigger than a walnut, and suddenly you're in this huge world, predators everywhere.
Yikes.
Yeah, those star patterns help. They're good camouflage. And birds, snakes, bigger animal, they're all threats to a little tortoise.
It's amazing any of them make it. How do they survive?
Their diet's a big part of it. When they're hatchlings, they stick to softer plants, easier to eat. As they grow, their diet gets more fibrous, tougher.
I see.
And that's what helps their shells develop properly, grow big and strong.
So it's not just about staying alive, it's shaping their whole body.
Exactly. And that shell, as it gets stronger, protects them better, obviously.
Right.
But it's not just about physical stuff. Their behavior helps them survive too.
How so?
Well, we talked about them being reclusive, right?
Yeah.
They hide during the hottest part of the day. That's crucial for water, for keeping their temperature stable.
Makes sense.
Especially when they're young, they can't handle extreme conditions as well.
So simple things make all the difference. They get past those early years, bigger, tougher, but then new problems pop up, right? like as adults.
Sadly, yeah. Once they're mature, it's habitat loss that becomes a huge threat.
Oh, right. As humans expand, their homes shrink.
Exactly. More people means more farms, cities, roads, all cutting into tortoise territory.
And that's hurting their numbers, I imagine.
Absolutely. When their habitat gets chopped up, it's harder to find mates, have healthy babies. Plus, less food, so they can get weaker,
Yeah.
more likely to get sick.
It's a domino effect, huh? And you mentioned the illegal pet trade, too. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a major problem. People love these tortoises, they're beautiful, and in some cultures, they're seen as good luck.
Right, we talked about that.
So there's this huge demand for them as pets, but a lot of it's illegal, taking them from the wild.
So it's like we want to love them, but that love is hurting them.
It's complex. Human desires versus what's good for the tortoises. And the demand is often way bigger than what legal, ethical breeders can supply.
So basic economics, but with real consequences for these animals. How does this trade even work?
It's a shady world. You've got poachers who catch them, traders, middlemen. They smuggle them across borders, hidden in suitcases, shipped in terrible conditions.
Ah, that's awful. Poor things. But what about breeding them in captivity? Can't that help? Take pressure off wild populations.
That's tricky. Captive breeding can be good, but it can also backfire.
Oh, how so?
For one, captive tortoises can escape, or people release them thinking they're doing good,
Mm-hmm.
but they can spread diseases to wild tortoises or mess up the local gene pool.
Ah, I hadn't thought of that.
And also, if people see lots of tortoises for sale, even if they're captive bred, it makes them think, oh, it's okay to own one, and demand goes up.
It's a tough situation trying to find a solution that actually works.
It is. It shows that we need to tackle the problem from all sides. Go after the poachers and smugglers, yeah,
Yeah.
but also change people's minds about owning these animals.
Right, target the demand.
Exactly. And that leads us to the conservation efforts that are happening, trying to protect these tortoises. There's a lot of work being done.
Well, let's hear about it. What's giving you hope? Okay, so we've talked about the threats, and yeah, it's heavy stuff. But what about the good news? What are people actually doing to help these tortoises?
Well, the good thing is there's a lot happening, and people are thinking about this from all angles. Like, one of the big things is protecting the places where these tortoises actually live.
Makes sense, gotta have a home, right? Are there, like, actual success stories?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are some areas in India where they're doing this amazing thing. They've got these community-based programs. So it's the locals who are stepping up to protect the tortoises and their habitats.
That's awesome.
It is. It not only helps the tortoises, but it also helps the people living there. It's like a win-win, sustainable living, everyone taking care of their environment.
That's so cool to hear. So it's not just about, like, fences and guards. It's about getting everyone involved.
Exactly. And on top of that, there's a lot of work going on to stop the illegal trade. Catching the poachers, the smugglers, making the laws tougher.
Yeah, gotta hit them where it hurts, right? Are they using any, like, high-tech stuff in that fight?
Oh, absolutely. Technology is a game changer here. For example, they're using DNA testing now.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So if they catch a bunch of tortoises being smuggled, they can test their DNA and figure out exactly where they came from.
So they can track down the poachers. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, it helps them focus their efforts. Figure out where the poaching hotspots are and crack down there.
It's like CSI for tortoises. But
Right.
what about just, like, regular people? Is there a role for, public awareness and stuff?
Huge role. I mean, education's key. There are all these campaigns going on, busting myths about keeping tortoises as pets, showing people why it's wrong ethically to support this trade.
So hearts and minds, not just laws on paper.
That's it. You got to get people to care, to see these animals as like fellow beings deserving of respect. It's
Yeah.
not just about rules. It's about changing attitudes.
Yeah, I feel that. And it seems like social media and all that must be helping, right? Reaching more people.
Oh, totally. It's a powerful tool. Sharing info, stories, pictures of these amazing tortoises, stuff that connects with people emotionally, makes them want to get involved.
It's amazing how technology can bring people together for a good cause. So, as we wrap up our deep dive here, what are the, like, big takeaways for our listeners? What do you want them to remember about the Indian Star Tortoise?
I think the main thing is these guys are more than just a pretty face. That shell, yeah, it's iconic, but it represents resilience, how life adapts. And their story, it's playing out all over the planet,
Yeah.
Habitat loss, exploitation, it's happening to so many species.
It's true, a reminder that we're all connected.
But the good news is people are fighting back. And the Indian Star Tortoise, it shows that when we work together, we can make a difference. We can protect these amazing creatures.
That's a hopeful message. We can't just sit back and watch. We all have a part to play.
Exactly. So if you've been listening, go learn more. Find those organizations fighting for these tortoises, support them, and just, in your own life, think about the choices you make. Even small things add up. They can have a real impact.
Totally agree. Well, thanks for taking us on this deep dive. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too. It's been eye-opening.
My pleasure. It's been great chatting with you. Hopefully everyone's feeling a little more inspired to appreciate these incredible animals and maybe even do their part to help them out.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for listening, everyone.